Good night. Hey, Jim Hari here. Life isn't fair. Some people still rail against that. Some people are still really blocked by that. People need to think more about that, understand more about what does life isn't fair really mean, and what is it meaning to you, and what needs to shift and change. Because life isn't fair. When you can accept that, when you can understand that, reprocess and reframe that, then and only then can you embrace the kind of empowered, adulting change and healing that you want and or need in your life. So life isn't fair. We have all likely experienced pain or disappointment in childhood or recently or in the past, or we may again in the future and beyond, pain or disappointment and even more, when, quote, life isn't fair, unquote. We have all heard this before, and we have all probably uttered it, at least sometimes, over the course of our lifetime so far. Many people, consciously or unconsciously, however, keep seeking life to be fair, not realizing that it is a naive, childlike belief, quote, life isn't fair, unquote. It's true that life isn't fair. And this is why it's in the process of adulting, whatever that looks like and means for so many different people, becoming more emotionally mature, developing more resiliency and emotional intelligence. Life isn't fair is a truism. Fairness is more of an abstract concept than it is a part of actionable, adult, mature, emotionally mature shared reality. Seeking to, quote, right fight, unquote, against what isn't fair keeps people stuck in a very subjective measuring that is often an unhealthy, habituated, maybe even repetition compulsion now, unbalanced, unhealthy dichotomy. Obsessing or ruminating over what wasn't or isn't fair in your life, or, quote, it'll never be fair for me, unquote, keeps people stuck in a very subjective measuring, as I said, but this obsessing or ruminating over that will block you getting into healthy, positive action to create healing change in your life. Learn how to shift your focus from resisting that life, quote, isn't fair, which it really isn't, to radically accept and unconditionally be accepting that life truly, really isn't fair. By focusing on who you are and who you have the ability to channel your empowerment into actionable progress and healing for that who you really are person, to the degree that you know who that is or know who you are authentically yet or not. Set a goal to take on the action of working to know yourself better, of letting go of feeling anything to do with the dichotomy of fair versus unfair. It can and will set you free. The other key thing to this, powerful, difficult, challenging for people, but also rewarding. Nothing short of taking personal responsibility and ownership 100% for your life is going to help you to get out of the fair versus unfair dichotomy. Through increasing healthy, emotionally mature self-awareness, you will discover a uniquely individual, significant system within through which you can begin to neutrally self-reflect in a way that will foster the development of a deep and a much more deeply understood, a deep understanding, much more deeply understood, of your inner thoughts, feelings, desires, motivations, choices made or choices not made, and a choice unmade is a choice made, behaviors, and actions. With this understanding, realize simultaneously you must cease all blaming, all denial, all defensiveness, and open, yes, to the incredible yet rewarding vulnerability of knowing this incredible responsibility once accepted and taken will help you action most needed change and all the needed change and healing in your life for yourself. Choose to take this journey actively, and you will richly reap its rewards. To be in an emotionally mature and objective self-aware self-reflection, being able to self-reflect place, requires that you first have learned how to stop blaming anyone else for anything and everything that you felt, that was negative, that impacted you, that happened to you, or even that they did to you, or that in any way you are still being affected by today. That it's creating an attitude, a defense, a narrative that you need to crack open in taking full personal responsibility for yourself and ownership of your life. You will benefit so much from consciously stepping out of any victim role or narrative, acknowledging in a radically accepting way that you may well have been a victim. You may well be in a victim role and narrative because you were a victim. But equally, with that acknowledgement, taking an action step to take ownership for what is in your life today, right now, with radical acceptance, with taking personal responsibility and ownership of your life to ensure that you do start that most important change inside for so many people still of not being an active victim anymore and shifting that to surviving, healing, changing, growing, taking personal responsibility for that moving forward, not whatever victimized you or whoever victimized you, but for your journey now. Dare greatly with this. If you are not in a process of active healing and recovery, get into one. Work with someone. I'm out here if I resonate with you. But work with someone to heal and clear any emotional blocks to you owning your own responsibility now and going forward accepting that you are the creator of your own experience. And I'm not saying you were, but now you are. It is incumbent upon you now to become the creator of your experience from this moment forward, the author of your own life story, the artist at the easel of what your life is going to go from as of this moment forward with intent to what you are going to paint on the easel that is your life from now forward. There are choices to learn to exercise, decisions to make, risks to take, fear to overcome, all kinds of challenges that when met, feeling the fear and doing it anyway, feeling the anxiety, coping with it, and going forward anyway, is what's going to lead you to the most incredible freedom inside that then can lead you to building emotional intelligence, emotional resiliency, increasing your self-esteem, increasing your self-worth, recovering and healing from anything that you need to still recover and heal from, and stop abandoning yourself or reliving something from the past. Whether or not you have been aware, everything in life is a choice. And because you are going to take or continue to take full responsibility and ownership for your life and your journey as the creator of your own experience from this moment forward, if not before, then everything in your life that has been in the category of choices unmade, which are choices also, you will start to realize the empowerment and the reason to grow forward into making the choices that might right now still feel very scary or impossible, or that might have felt that way for your lifetime. It is by implementing a regular process of checking in with yourself in a really authentic, aware, knowing, fully responsible way, but doesn't blame anybody else for anything else. This checking in with yourself, a regular process to understand how you are thinking and feeling, what is driving your needs, what needs are unmet, what are your desires, what are your expectations, what expectations are being fulfilled by you or not. Don't look at what others do or don't do, say or say they will do or don't do, and what is motivating you. What is motivating your attitude, your feelings, your thoughts, your actions, and your behavior? And what lies behind the actions that will give you such precious, newly found, and understood or continued empowerment to take this sole responsibility to make any change that you deem that you will benefit from or that is necessary within yourself and in yourself only. You can only make changes within yourself. This requires a disciplined or an acquiring of discipline, right? A disciplined and vulnerable, no holes barred, authentic, keeping it real honesty with yourself. You cannot change anyone else, and you cannot change that life is not fair, and you cannot change so much of what's happening in the world. So, as Gandhi said so incredibly wisely, quote, be the change that you want to see in the world, unquote. You cannot change your past. You can change yourself to heal from your past. Revisionist history, whether you are blaming someone else, a system, and or society, and or what someone else did or didn't do, or where somebody made a mistake, or you followed some advice that didn't work out, this will continue to lead you only to find excuses to continue to abandon yourself. Revisionist history, and still blaming others, and staying angry at others, and maybe angry at parents for a lifetime you might have been up till this point. This is your opportunity to take full ownership, personal responsibility. Stop the blame, understand what happened, process, heal, change, focus on yourself in a healthy, balanced way, and change the lens of not looking through the lens of fair or unfair, or what happened to you, though it might have been very egregious and victimizing, but rather to have a lens that asks more about what choices can I make now? Choosing change, choosing healing, choosing recovery. Accept yourself right now, today, as you are, wherever you are, with whatever hurts, with whatever might be in your life that you need and want to change still, that you need to heal, that you're still struggling with. Radically accept that. It is okay. No one in the human condition achieves perfection, and everybody is exactly where they're meant to be right now for one reason or another, uniquely tied to you and you alone. Don't question the infinite wisdom of the life's journey of the spirit, that we aren't always the soul inside, that we aren't always so consciously aware of. Know that it is only through personal responsibility and personal ownership of your experiences going forward from now that you can create empowered personal change within and for yourself. When we seek to be and choose to be and take the journey of becoming empowered with the necessary information about ourselves, we can begin to identify patterns in are thinking, or in, past thinking, well, if you're still thinking certain ways, and behaviors that result from the patterns of thinking that create the feelings that lead to the behaviors that are not serving you well, and make changes to those patterns in a meaningful way that moves you forward. So in a way that helps you to gain more awareness about what you're feeling, to know what feeling is driving what your thoughts are, and what thoughts are leading to behaviors and actions and attitudes and repetition compulsion actions, or ruminating and repeating thoughts that may be somewhat skewed now despite what your experience might have been. Crucial to this is to find your why. When dealing with hardships, challenges, the need to heal and recover from many things that were so victimizing and wounding in people's lives, tapping into your why is tapping into the purpose for something, which might not seem like, well, it's not like purpose is tied to the why, but it's to find a deeper meaning, to create a new purpose going forward in your change and healing and recovery journey. This is something that is often the backbone needed to offer support, or to get yourself in a place to embrace personal responsibility, stop blaming others, etc., to empower yourself when you realize that life is not fair, and it's not going to be fair anytime soon, or really ever. Because to the degree or not that you might believe life is fair or unfair is highly subjective. So if you have an expectation, you have a want, you have a need, if someone meets it, or you're meeting it and someone else is meeting it with you, or however that might be working in your life, then that's going to feel fair. Or if you get what you want, that's going to feel fair. But if you can't meet an expectation, if somebody else lets you down, if you get betrayed, if you get hurt, if you don't get what you want, then in this dichotomous way of thinking, you will then believe, well, that was unfair because I really deserved that, or I really shoulda, woulda, coulda. And that's revisionist history right there, that isn't even based on critical thinking of what actually happened and a radical acceptance of that, so you can reframe, regroup, and move forward yet again. Finding your why serves as a pathway toward more meaning. It is motivating in the midst of the discouragement, maybe even disillusionment, and it can be so demotivating and or depressing that dealing with unfairness in life has rather taught you to just expect life to continue to be unfair, as if it's being fair for the rest of us or somebody else. Because fair versus unfair is a childlike, and we learn it in childhood, and it doesn't make any sense then either, really. It's dichotomous, it's black and white thinking, it's thought distortions, it's just not helpful. So we have to clear that out, radically accepting where we are now, going forward in your life, radically accepting where you are, and letting go of this dichotomy that will keep you stuck and blocked and in a lot of pain and suffering of whether something's fair or not fair. Let it go. It is the purpose behind why you are pursuing any specific course or goal or way of thinking or attitude, or perhaps still blaming somebody else and not quite owning your personal responsibility and your life just yet as the creator of your experience moving forward, and all of that empowerment that awaits you embracing it, where you might still be fighting for a certain cause that you think will energize you, keep you focused, and ultimately ensure you don't stop until you reach your ultimate target, if you know what that is, or your ultimate goal. But there's more than one goal to be had in life, in change and healing and self-discovery and emotionally maturing and building up emotional intelligence and resiliency in what is known as, quote, adulting, unquote, much more fully. Now, if we don't pay attention to this, many people don't realize the degree. And if you haven't done inner child healing work, family of origin work, and self differentiation work, you may not realize the extent to which you still have parts of yourself and the inner child parts of self that are pulling, they're resisting your moving forward. They're resisting your knowing more. They're resisting your breaking free from these narratives of your life wherein other people had other responsibility, but now they're still being blamed or held out as the reason, and maybe subconsciously or unconsciously, the excuse why you can't create the change to find the calm and the peace and yes, the happiness that you so deserve in your life. Finding your why is not an answer to the question, why did my mother do this to me? Why did my father do that? Why did this person do this or that? Or why didn't they do this or that for me? The why that you're seeking to find out more about is not even the purpose, like the reason that what happened to you in your life, or where you're at right now is where you're at, or how you feel is how you feel, or how lost you are is how lost you are. No, finding your why is now about looking for the lessons in the pain that you still need to process that will teach you more about finding the sacred and rather divine, soulful meaningfulness that this was not designed to give you, but that since things happen to you, that you need to change and heal and recover from and go forward anew and with radical acceptance and in many different ways. This is what the why is about. It's about the depth of the meaning that you can take from the pain, from victimization, from suffering, even for great long periods of time or a lifetime so far, to really learn the lessons that processing your pain in a healing and recovery journey is just chomping at the bit to teach you when you make the choice to turn into that journey, into that process with a full commitment, taking personal responsibility. It requires starting to firstly radically accept where you are, no matter what. The neutrality of what is in your life right now, that is because it just is. What was in your life was. What happened, happened. What has passed, you may still be needing to work through, but it has in a way passed, and you're carrying it forward, and that is a choice. It is the dilemma of a choice that we make in defense from young childhood, and it goes into our unconscious minds as we, quote, grow up, but we don't effectively get to really that emotional maturing, that, quote, adulting, unquote, that emotional intelligence increasing and resiliency finding and moving forward and really creating that healthy, awesome, unimagined, right now might feel impossible, incredible change that truly whatever you've been through in your life seeks to teach you more about and helps, and out of the crisis of it all, what's waiting for you to embrace it is the ultimate growth, recovery, healing, knowing yourself better opportunity that, yes, means traveling through, stepping through a step at a time, a journey and a process in which you have to let go. Have to let go, have to let go. Need to grieve, need to grieve. Need to feel, need to feel. Need to know more about yourself. Need to reach down to the inner child. Need to do the family of origin work. Need to do the self differentiation work. And for some people, before any of the things I just said, they first need to just find themselves, a modicum of knowing who they are and what it means to have a container of that self inside. Trauma is a part of life to one degree or another for every human being at one point or another. It is the core, one of the core aspects of the human experience. That is why everyone, to one degree or another, pretty much everyone, needs to be on a journey toward more self integration, self awareness, to, as Socrates said, know thyself, and to be at home in that self that you are seeking now or will be seeking in a more radically accepting way, to actually be consciously, actively aware of through the radical acceptance of whatever this means in your life right now, in the sum total of all that it may really be. All of the moving pieces, all of the moving parts, all of the woundedness, the trauma, the hurt, things that you don't know right now maybe how to let go of. There's so much research that supports that by undertaking this process that starts with this radical acceptance and everything I've just talked about here in this podcast video, is a way to gain confidence in your own abilities and have a greater ability to learn so much about yourself, cope much more effectively, learn coping and different tools in recovery. But this is the ability to manage your stress effectively in a balanced way and to become more resilient in the face of any trauma or adverse experience that is still affecting you in your life. Be motivated. If you're afraid, embrace the fear, embrace the pain, embrace the adversity in a radically accepting manner. Don't worry about how you feel. It might feel impossible, but life isn't fair. And as soon as you can start to process and accept that, this world that I've been describing, you are a world waiting to be born yet again unto yourself, so that you can come home to self and you can integrate self. Come home to the integrated self through these healing and recovery journeys that I work with clients to help them through, and know that self as home for the first time. And in the integration of self, that includes integrating more with your spiritual reality, but your soul, with the essence of who you are, who you have, the soul part of self, or maybe not really part of self, but the soul aspect of our beingness that knows more than this journey that we are on in this life, in the physical vehicle in which we are experiencing the various aspects of the journey through and from within. Don't limit yourself to something like life isn't fair and I need it to be fair, or I can't ever make a choice to find my why, to find meaning, to find purpose, to take personal responsibility and ownership, to want to adult and find self integration. You have to go through adversity for this, and it will reward you exponentially.